Welcome, everybody. My name is Tom Devine. I am with AVPro Edge, and I am very excited to have you guys on today's session. We are going to be talking about a brand new product from AVPro, a product that is a truly game-changing product, a product that pushes technology into the future, and it lets us in audio video, when we get a product like this, it's exciting, something we can hang our hat on, something that when you talk to your friends and family, they can even understand the impact of being able to offer what we're offering. And today we're talking about a 4x2 matrix switch. But what makes this switch special is because, we already have a 4x2 matrix switch, is that now we have bumped up the data rates on this. So you are able to actually manage 8K HDMI signals. And as we push technology to the future, and TV manufacturers are coming up with TVs that are that are 8K, and we have the gaming consoles that are 8K, and we have AVRs that are 8K, and the 8K silicon image chips are being developed so that the silicon chips that are being developed to manage 8K, that's all available to manufacturers who are going to start to engineer these chips to do really cool things with this giant data rate of this so much information that it takes to create 8K video. And luckily, because you are an AVPro Edge partner, you are checking this out now, and you are going to be ahead of your competitors, and you're going to be ahead of everyone else, because this is the first chance really integrators are going to have to get a true 4x2 matrix switcher that has 8K capabilities. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. I have the product right here. I've already taken it out. I have it powered up, and I have it connected to our network. We're going to look into it, but I'll unconnect it here quick so we can just take a quick look at this device. So here's the device. It is, it's not very big. It's extremely small. I would even say it's perfect to going to hiding, under a cabinet, or with your gaming consoles, or on, behind a sound bar, or even in a rack mounted system. This is going to fit wherever you need to. It's going to have the 4 HDMI inputs and then 2 HDMI outputs. You have extracted audio, and we will look at this closer in a bit here through the PowerPoint. So without further ado, let's look at that. All right. I'm going to share my screen and then get my PowerPoint pulled up here, guys. And while I'm doing this, I do want to let you guys know that there is a questions tab in your go-to webinar control panel if you are watching this live. If you have any questions throughout the entire presentation, perfect. I want to hear them. If you're thinking about them, that means someone else is thinking about them too, and we want to get those questions answered. With this go to webinar control panel, you can just type it right in there, and when I see that question, I'll be able to answer and ask for everybody. If you are watching this on YouTube later, perfect. You have a comment section. Just type your comment right in there, and we will be able to answer any of the questions that you have. We're constantly making sure that we're responding to different requests for that. So now let me share my screen here. Okay. And if you guys are having problems seeing this, just let me know. It seems to me that I am sharing it now, so we should be good to go. And so let's first, what we're going to do during this training is I'm going to talk about it. We're going to learn about it. We're going to find out when to use this piece, why it's special, but then we are going to actually connect to it and then look at the AVPro Edge user interface, which is a major upgrade that what AVPro Edge is offering with our matrix switchers, and you're going to definitely want to check that out as well. And so we'll do that. Here's the product right now. As you can see, I had it plugged in. I've unplugged it, and we'll plug it in live, and we'll go from there. So let's see. All right, we have, so this is what we're talking about today. This is a 40 gigabit per second 8K matrix switcher that has everything an integrator would want. You have 8K resolutions up to 40 gigabits per second. It can handle Dolby Vision, HDR, HDR10, HLG. It has HDCP 2.3 and all earlier versions. So if you are familiar with HDCP, it's a content protection. And this device is going to be able to handle content protection in all of the inputs and out any of the outputs up to 2.3. So that's what you're going to find is the newer content protection that we're seeing with 8K signals, where if you do have a product that is getting 2.3 HDCP but can't manage, is only able to maybe do 1.4 or 2.0, you're going to have problems. That's not going to be the case with this matrix switcher. It can actually has a built-in downscaler to take that 8K signal and then change it to either 4K or 1080p through output 2. And so we're going to talk about why that's important, but know that that is really important, especially in today's landscape where you're probably only going to have one 8K TV, and then the other TVs are going to be 4K or 1080p, maybe something older. It's perfect for bypassing AVRs that are not able to deliver 8K signaling. It has advanced EDID management, and we will look at that as well. It does have the AVPro Edge user interface. That's how we'll look at that EDID management, is through that. And you also get to see a front-facing screen. So our old 4x2 was just exactly what you see. It was just a box. On this one, we actually added a screen right here. So you'd be able to get some data of what the inputs are, which sources the outputs are outputting, as well as getting the IP address, making it very simpler for integrators when they're setting up. So now we're going to take a true close look at this piece here. So if we look at the top, you're going to see this is the back of the unit, and you have the 4 HDMI inputs, and you have 2 HDMI outputs. You have your extracted audio, and out of your TOS, your digital SPDIF output right here, you can have 6-channel audio, and out of your analog audio, it's going to give you your left-right signal. Know that this is not a down mixing device. So if you're sending Dolby Atmos into the HDMI output, it's not going to down mix those 30 channels into a 2-channel signal right here. It's only going to extract the left-right signal out of that. So just be wary, make sure that you're setting your sources at the right the right audio codecs in the right audio formats. So if you are extracting audio from here into an AVR, into a distributed audio system, you won't have any problems. And then there's 2 different ways to control RS-232 or IP control. And those are very simple, depending on what kind of control system you use. Is this a simple setup? Is this going to be just a dumb switch that sits there? That's all up to you and the integrator on how you guys want to install that. On the front here, we talk about some of the modes, the couple different modes that put this into with this increased bandwidth, we're going from a maximum of 18 gigabits per second was the pipeline for 4K, which was very hard to do. And we're bumping that up more than double to 40 gigabits per second, and able to, allows you to pass our 8K signaling. So with that, there are a couple modes. You may want to just have the outputs be exactly the same, have the same 8K signal coming out of there. And the screen right on top shows you how to do that. Or you may want to have it matrix. So you have 2 different pictures coming out of output 1 and output 2. You might want to have the 8K, having 8K signal going to one TV, and then can have a 4K signal going to another TV, downscaled, or even a downscaled to 1080p signal that goes to a legacy display that can show the same exact content or different content, your choice. So now let's just take a quick look on how you would set this up in the system that you would install. Now you can see there's no true application here. We're not saying this is in a house or in a museum or whatever. That's up to the integrator to decide. We're just showing you here how to connect these devices together. So just like our last 4x2, it's pretty simple. You have 4 sources. You have your 2 TVs. You can show any of these HDMI sources on any of these connected displays. You can extract the audio out into an AVR or an audio, distributed audio system. You can have your control processor giving commands through RS-232. You could have it connected to your local network for checking on it that way using the AVPro Edge user interface. More importantly, though, and we will get into this later, is I wanted to show you how you can use this a little bit differently. And this ends up being kind of almost the main way a lot of integrators use this device. And what happens with an installation? You are going in and your customer has bought an 8K panel and they have 8K gaming consoles, but they have a really high-end audio system. And they don't want to replace that audio system they just bought 3 years ago. It's beautiful. It sounds so good. But that audio system isn't going to be able to handle the video content coming through. So what you can do as an integrator now is you can add this little matrix switch, this 4x2 matrix switch, and you can make sure that all of the sources go into this matrix switch. And through output 1, we will send a full 8K video to that 8K panel, making sure that they can see everything. But out of output 2, instead of sending an 8K signal, we'll downscale just the video resolution to 4K or 1080p, whatever the AVR or sounds distributed audio system could handle. And with that, then we don't have to touch the audio. The audio will remain uncompressed. You can still have full Dolby Atmos audio going into your AVR. So now you're listening to full 8K, or you're viewing 8K signals at the same time as you're listening to that uncompressed Dolby audio through a system that wasn't built for 8K. So this is the AVR workaround. This is your legacy product workaround. When you have a customer that's upgrading or installing 8K products, you know not everything is going to be 8K. You're going to have to work around some legacy products or some products that do not have those 8K chips inside. And with our matrix switch, we allow you to do that. It's built specifically for that application. So now we're going to talk about the AVPro Edge user interface and control. So first, control. This is AVPro Edge. For control, we work with everyone. We work with Control 4 and Crestron and URC, and whoever you use, you can get our API and we can map it to make sure that you can use this matrix switch that we have right here, this matrix switch, with any of the control systems. But now I'm going to actually plug this in. I'm going to power this unit up. So first I'm going to give it power, and then I'm going to give it network. And now we don't have TVs and we don't have sources connected to it right now, but this is still going to allow us to actually view what's happening and how you, as the integrator, would set that up. So now I'm going to get in here, share my screen again. Okay, now guys, hopefully you can see my browser. I can share my sharing. All right, it looks like you can. So this is good. So what I did is I went to a specific IP address, or the default IP address that is with this, and I get this screen that we're seeing right here. So this screen that you're looking at, the reason we're able to see this is because my computer that I'm sharing my screen with is on the same network as this switch when I connected it right here. So now what we're doing is we're accessing this switch via the user interface. And because it's a completely redesigned user interface, I want to run it through it and show you guys all the bells and whistles. So first off, as you can see, if you've seen our old ones, this looks a lot nicer, looks a lot more professional. And you have a little menu on the side that you can hide or you can pull back out. And on this menu, you can see you have matrix, in-out configuration, system, diagnostics, and console. So with we're going to go through each one of these and just take a look at what you can do. With the matrix, it's really simple. This is where you're going to control. Okay, I want input 2 to be on output 1 and output 2. Boom, it switched it. It probably switched it because I have probably mirror mode on. So we can check that as well. DA mode. So I'm going to switch this to matrix, and we're going to get to this point, but all of the things that we change in these different sections will actually change how this works. So if you saw before, when I select output 2, these both came in because it was in DA mode. That is the mode where both output 1 and output 2 are mirrored, showing the same image. Now I have selected matrix mode, so I can go to output 3, and I just want output 2 to show 3. So now you can see this is turned green. So now input 2 I have on output 1, and input 3 I have on output 2. If I wanted to switch to 4, look, I switch over to input 4. They're both red. Now if I click here, it turns green, and we now know that the switching inside this matrix switch is happening. Now, I can actually, if you see, I just selected a button, but I can go through and actually select my buttons on my front screen, and it will show us what's happening inside the user interface for switching. So just, very, really smart for an integrator to, once they're connected, they get into the matrix, and then they run through all their sources to make sure it's going to switch properly. And if it's not going to switch properly, well, you have a lot at your fingertips to make sure it does switch properly, and that all of the components, that means the TVs, the 8K TVs, the AVRs, the sources, are all doing what you want them to do. So that's going to first happen with EDID management. EDID management is an identifier that the TV sends to the source. So the opposite direction of normal HDMI. And it tells the source, hey, I can only handle 4K. I can't do 3D. I can't do HDR. Or, I can do 8K. I can't do 3D, whatever. With this, you can kind of build your own EDID. So let's look on output 1. I can relabel this and input. And I'm going to say on this one, I have my Xbox. So I'm going to relabel this Xbox. And I can go in here and I can change the different EDIDs that we have standard. Here's our 8K EDID. As you can see, as soon as you select 8K EDIDs have removed 3D. So as you guys know, 3D was a big part of audio video for a short amount of time. And there were 3D TVs, and they were all the rage, and they were curved, and everybody was like, well, that ship has sailed. So now with the new 8K EDIDs, you're not even allowed to check 3D. But if you do go with like a 4K EDID right here, let's say you're going to choose this 420 4K 60 EDID, you can still choose 3D. You can choose your HDR, no HDR. You can choose your audio. I'm going to do full 8-channel audio, and then I can hit apply. And what that does then is it takes that signal coming from the TV, the EDID, and it just throws it away. And then the matrix makes a new EDID and sends that to the source, ensuring that as an integrator, you're getting the signal you choose, that you are in control of. And you can go through that with each one of these. So, I have a PS5 here. I know that I can do 8K, so I'll choose 8K. And I only want to have 2-channel here, so I'm going to apply that, or I have my AVR hooked up. I'm going to go full 8-channel, and then I'm going to apply those. So now let's look at our video output. And on our video output, we have scaling. And the scaling is built in on output 2. So you have output 1, that's going to just bypass whatever signal you have coming through. And then output 2, this is where you can control your scaling. So we can go down to 1080p right here. This is going to send any 4K or 8K signals and downscale them to 1080p. Then we also have 8K to 4K. So it's going to take that 8K signal and downscale it to 4K. Now, this is what I was switching before. As you can see, we're in DA mode. But if we go to matrix mode, now I can switch them independently, and I'm able to see, but still downscale one of these. I do want to let you know that in matrix mode, if you are showing you have multiple sources that are showing 8K content, 8K will only come out of output 1. Output 2 in matrix mode will always be downscaled to at least 4K. And that's to just allow that bandwidth to work properly, so you get proper switching and that your system works properly. That's something that our engineers put in so that you don't have to worry about having signals drop, not having having too much data flow through the system. All right. In audio settings, this is where you can, change your audio setting. Out 1's going to go to maybe AVR, and that this is where I want my audio to come from, this is where you can select that. Now let's go into system. System, you're going to get your IP information right here. Your RS-232 settings, your telnet settings. You have a admin web interface that's pretty cool to play around with. But most importantly is cloud services. So if you go in here and I enable cloud services, you know what? Actually, I'm going to show without enabling cloud services. And I want to update firmware. What I can do is I can just go in here and I can select a file input and I can choose whatever file I want. If I have one that I do want to use. I'll get this back out of here because I don't have one. Now you can just check for update and then it will download the most recent firmware from our systems from us automatically. So you don't have to go to our website and find it. You just check for update and it will give you the newest one. But as you can see, it gave me that error message because you actually have to enable cloud services. Then once you do that, you can now check for updates. And because this is a brand new product, we don't have a firmware update that people have need to do. But once we do, if we do ever have one, it's really smart for an integrator to just check this. It only takes a second. You check your firmware, make sure you're on the recent one, and you can see exactly what kind of firmware we have here. This one is up to date. Our diagnostics is exactly what it says. So I have HDMI in and HDMI out. I can actually check the signal flow, HDCP, what type of signals coming through on each one of my inputs with status signals. And then that's the same on my output as well. So I'd be able to manage all that. And you can actually disable an entire output. So let's say you don't want anything to come out of output 2. That's fine. You can just make this a one output switcher by disabling it completely. And then we have the console, and the console is going to talk directly to the API of the command. And, you know, this is the little trick that I like to put into the console is I just put H, that's for help. If I run H, it's going to give me all the detailed information of this switch. So if I need to build my own driver, if I need to go deeper into this matrix switch, I'm able to through this AVPro Edge user interface. So this, having 8K resolutions is a huge deal. Having it teamed up with this super robust AVPro Edge user interface, it's really giving the tools, all the tools to the integrator. And if you look here, I typed in H, but you should see all of the different commands that you would be able to send directly to this unit. One of the things that I think is really cool, let's set system reset to reboot. So let's try that one because I want to show something that's really cool on here. So I go set RBT, that's system to reboot. I run it and I can see that it's actually going to reboot my entire system, which is very, very cool. But what doesn't happen is when you reset this system is it doesn't drop out. It doesn't just turn all the way off. The control system will stay live and active even as this reboots, making sure that you don't have to try to go find it in your system with all the different IP addresses that it could be. You're going to be able to stay on it as you give it those commands. All right, so that's the AVPro Edge user interface. Now we can go back to our PowerPoint and we can start to learn where these are going to go. Where do I, Tom Devine, where do I think that these units should go? Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I want to make sure there's no questions, so just give me 1 second. All right, questions. It looks like I got no questions, so good. That's good to hear. All right, so the first place that this is going to go, the first place that you're going to want to take it to your integrators is going to be 8K home theater upgrades. So if you have any customers that are asking for an 8K TV, they're wanting the new, the newest and the best. Well, with it comes this matrix switcher. Because with this matrix switcher, they're able to deliver optimized picture to your display. At the same time, they're sending an optimized signal to the audio system. It works with the HDMI 2.1 products that we have out right now, which are PS5 and Xbox Series X. You have no added latency when you're running those gaming consoles through this device. Excuse me. And it's compatible with all 8K TVs and AVRs and any HDMI 8K products. This unit is compatible with that. And it supports not just 8K, but it still supports all of the sources that you're going to have. You're probably, the main scenario that you'll see this in is you have a home theater and you have a Apple TV and you have a satellite box for Dish or DirecTV. They're not giving you 8K, but then you might have a PS5 that is giving you 8K, and you might have an Xbox Series X that's giving you 8K. So you have those four connected. This device will be able to manage all of them. Because it's able to manage 8K so well, those lower bandwidth signals like 4K and 1080p, it supports with no problems at all. So even if you had a really old signal, some HDMI signal that's 720 or 480, it's okay. You're going to be able to pass it through this device. And when you switch over to the 8K signal, it's still going to work perfectly. So you kind of get the best of both worlds here. Allows your customers to have that 8K wow factor from the 8K sources and from the 8K internal apps like on YouTube, but then still use all the sources that they want, like the Apple TVs and the DirecTV boxes. And so this is, we've talked about this a little bit, but this is the legacy AVR workaround. You have a AVR, you have a home theater, you have beautiful speakers, they're all already installed, and you upgrade the projector to be an 8K projector. Well, you need to buy the 4x2 from AVPro Edge so that you can send 8K to that new projector, but a downscaled 1080p signal to that AVR. With this, that AVR, even though it's getting a down scaled resolution, the audio is still completely uncompressed and you're getting the full audio signal. And you want to use this is when the AVR is already installed. And it works not just with AVRs, but other older HDMI products. So if you have other HDMI products that you need to work around, that you need to put in a system with 8K sources, this is the way to do that exact thing. Let's see. So now the next one is you just bought a 8K AVR, you just bought a 8K TV. Well, what you didn't know was that it only has one single 8K HDMI input. So even though it may have HDMI 1 through 5 or 1 through 4 or 1 through 8 or whatever the newest TV has, all 8 of those HDMI input ports are not created equal. That because it takes, especially with 8K, it takes a very specific engineering to be able to handle that signal. That engineering costs money. If they were going to put it across every single port, it'd be very expensive. So what they do, because most people will only have one 8K source, they have one 8K port that's going to do it. But we're custom. We don't want customers to have to go into input and output and all of those different things. We want customers to just sit down, get exactly what they want, and control through their control system. With this product, you can do just that, because what you can do is, even though the AVR or the TV only has one HDMI input that is 8K, you can make sure that that's connected to your output number 1, and you can connect any of your 8K sources, your PS5, your Xbox Series X, your gaming computer, and whatever future 8K source is going to be. And then you're able to have this run right alongside your AVR or your TV, and you just go directly into it. Now you've upgraded your AVR or your TV so that it's ready for more 8K products. Now you're able to connect your PS5 and your Xbox Series X at the same time. With everything that you get from AVPro Edge, we have a no BS 10-year warranty where we are going to do everything we can to make sure you are taken care of as the customer. And the reason that we can do this is because we are not some company that's just, buying what's ever out there and having other people develop things and saying, oh, that's a good idea, we'll rebrand it to ours. That's not what we're doing at all. We have very specific engineers working on very specific products. We have very, very specific component selection process so that if a component has a fail rate that we don't like, or it could be potentially cause problems down the road with one of our products, we don't use it. We will pay a little bit extra to have that quality component. And when we get to choose our components, and when we choose what our products want, and we have our engineers, our own engineers engineering these products, we're able to deliver a 10-year warranty on our products. So when you install AVPro Edge, you're doing it with confidence, knowing that you're installing a system that is going to be stable for as long as they need to run that system. Compatible products. You may be saying, all right, 8K, Tom, fine, I guess 8K could be coming down the line. There's not too much out right now. And you know what? You're not wrong. But there are already, even if the PS5 and the Xbox Series X they are hard to find those products right now. They've both sold in the millions. So even if you think that this isn't important, all of your high-end customers do have those gaming consoles. And if you're showing those gaming consoles through 4K TVs, they might as well just should have stepped with the last generation of gaming consoles. The reason that they have these is because they can do the best of the best. And in order to do the best of the best, you have to have the infrastructure that can handle that. So you have a 2 matrix switch that's going to help you. But how are you going to go from this matrix switch to the TV, from the source to this matrix switch? And that's with 8K HDMI cables from Bullet Train. We have short lengths that are all copper. If you need to go very long distances, we have long lengths as well that you can definitely check out. And if you're not familiar with Bullet Train, check out bullettraincables.com. You'll find all the information you need to see why thousands of integrators around the country and the world choose Bullet Train every day, making sure that they're ensuring that their pipeline is open, valid. Each one of those 19 pinouts is pinned out perfectly, and you're not going to have any problems with signal flow or latency. And then our one of our partner companies is Meridio, and we do distribution. They do testing. And the reason we're partners with them is because we need to test our products. We have a 10-year warranty. We're not sending our products out until we know that they are stable. And we do that with testing Meridio, with the Meridio testing devices. Now, you as an integrator can do that same thing. If you get on site and you have an HDMI problem and you have a tech that's unplugging and swapping out products and trying to figure out connections and re-terminating category cable, well, he could be out there all day and never really know what the thing he did is that fixed the system. It could take him 2 days. But with test products, you can take that 1 day testing time, crunch it down to 1 hour, and you know exactly where the break was. And once you know exactly where the problem was, you can easily fix it. Now you have a stable system. When you use AVPro Edge products and you have the Meridio testing gear, you really are setting yourself up for success, for a larger bottom line or bottom dollar, as you don't have to waste time going back on old sites and doing truck rolls. You get to concentrate on doing new installs and new income for your business. If you need any more information, we are always available. It is our phone number is right there, 605-274-6055. Give us a call, shoot us an email if you have one. If you have an RSM, you can retrade out to them. If you have any questions at all, this is the time to put them in and I can cover them. We are wrapping up the training here. So I do have one question here from Ian. He said, I may have missed this, but I haven't heard the question specifically answered. Does output 1 only play 8K sources, or will it pass through 1080p and 4K as well? It will pass through 1080 and 4K sources and 720 sources and 480 sources. If you hook up something that is below 8K, Ian, you're not going to have a problem switching it through any of the outputs. If you have 1080p source, it can go directly in any of the inputs, and it can go throughout any of the outputs with no problems at all. That's a great question, and thank you very much. So it looks like that's all the questions I have here. If you guys have any other questions, put them in. We have a question here. Are there any TVs that do 120 Hertz? And yes, there sure are. All of the HDMI, the 8K TVs, they're going to allow you to do 4K 120 or 1080p 120. So that means we watch movies at 24 frames per second. We would like to watch sports and fast moving things at 60 frames per second. And what Hartley's talking about here is 120 frames per second. And with the HDMI 2.1 specification, that's a big part of it. We're upping the frame rate, so now we can do 120 frame rate. Now, where are you going to find this? You're going to find this in gaming. That's really the main place that you need those high frame rates. And today, Hartley, all of the 8K TVs that are coming out, when they say 8K or HDMI 2.1, even though they may not be able to do the entire HDMI 2.1 specification, they are all able to do 120 frame rate. And then if you look at computer monitors have been able to actually do 120 frames per second for quite some time, because the PC gamers are upper echelon when it comes to technology. So yes, there are a lot of TVs out there. If a TV does 8K, it is able to do 120 frames per second or 120 hertz or 120 refresh rate, however you like to say that. I can't say every single one, but I can show you every one that we've had in our system on our 3 different testing locations and sites. We've had a lot of different units in, and we haven't had problems running 120 on any of those. So great question. All right, that's the entire webinar. That's the entire training. Thank you guys so much. If you guys have any more questions, just put them in the comment section, or you can email me directly, tom@avproedge.com, or excuse me, tom@avproglobal.com. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next training.